you start to, accrue fat unnecessarily above and beyond what you need to recover. And it just becomes this snowball where all of a sudden within a few weeks, you're up like 20 pounds of weight. What's up guys, Derek, moreplates.com. Today we are going to be talking about maintenance calories. So this is a topic that you would think I would have covered by now. I probably have at some point in the past few years, but more recently, kind of through Sush's following, they kind of wanted me to touch on it because this is sort of what I've been working with him on in terms of increasing his maintenance calories whilst trying to maintain a reasonable body composition to kind of prime his metabolism in order to set himself up for a successful bulk or a successful cutting phase for summer where he is not suffering with his leptin and ghrelin completely dysfunctional. So how would you increase your maintenance calories and be able to get to a higher set point and eventually allow yourself to diet at more, reasonable of a calorie intake that's easier to adhere to, I suppose? Because obviously, it's no secret that once you've started, cutting for a long duration of time, hunger hormones start to creep up on you, your brain chemistry gets all fucked up, and you end up, this is a normal response physiologically, but you start to get intense cravings to the point that it's nearly unsustainable to stick to this deep deficit without either binging and or, significant pharmacology intervention in order to, kill your appetite with stimulants, nicotine, whatever the fuck it is, melanotan, tons of different shit you can be deploying. But, ideally you'd want to avoid doing that. You want to set yourself up for as successful of a cutting phase as possible while being able to eat as much food as possible. So priming your metabolism, it's not like eventually whatever you're eating, your body is gonna adapt within reason. Like if you jump from, let's just say 2,500 calories is your, where you're maintaining your weight and you're deep in a cut, and you jump all of a sudden overnight to 4,000 calories, yeah, you're gonna adapt to that eventually, but you getting to that point of homeostasis, how much fat do you accrue during that process? That's something that I think often goes overlooked because it's like, yeah, you could technically just jump from 2,500 straight to 4,000 and probably, ease your cravings a lot faster because you can get to a set point a lot quicker, or at least allow yourself to eat more food in a shorter duration of time because you're jumping right from like borderline, hungry perpetually around the clock mode to being completely satisfied like right away. But how much additional fat do you accrue above and beyond what you actually needed in that calorie surplus to actually repair muscle? That's where you start to get unnecessary fat gain and where the whole idea of incremental, almost progressive overload of food sort of comes into play. So it's like when you go in the gym, if you can only bench one plate, do you throw another plate on? Like, no, you don't. You add even a 2.5 is sometimes too much. Maybe you need those incremental plates that are like a ½ pound each. You put them each on the side. Like that is something that is a reasonable strategy to deploy. Maybe with food intake, it doesn't need to be that micro, but and at the gym, if you're, obviously that much of a newbie where you're doing a plate, you probably don't need to do that either. But you know what I mean? Like if you're adding, 5 pounds to your lifts versus, 45 pounds to each side of the bar, there's a big fucking disparity there. You know what I mean? Like one situation, you're almost guaranteed not going to be able to do it and you might injure yourself, whereas the other one is like reasonable to expect and your body can actually handle the new additional stimulus. With food, obviously you're not gonna injure yourself. Like I guess maybe you injure yourself, your digestive system gets kind of stressed out when all of a sudden you introduce, 1,500 extra calories, but you don't want to just jump from 2,500 to 4,000. You want to incrementally increase it, almost like progressive overload style. And in that process, you are giving your body just what it needs to recover. And then anything above and beyond that, which may get like shuttled into fat storage, ideally you want to avoid. You don't want to excessively burden your body with calories you do not need. So getting your set point up is really just about watching the mirror, watching your progress in the gym, watching the scale, using reasonable, deducive, tactics to figure out, okay, like have I put on too much fat in this period of time? In the past week, I put on 2 pounds. That's probably a bit too fast. Look at the mirror. I can already see shit blurring over. Maybe I should reel it back a bit. If you're gaining 0 weight after, 2 weeks of eating in your surplus, well, maybe this isn't enough. I'm not really getting stronger in the gym at this point. Maybe I need to add a little bit more food. Does that mean you add 500 calories? Not necessarily. Like your surplus can start with as little as, a 300 calorie surplus. I think that's a reasonable starting point. And I think jumping to like 1,000 is overkill. And I think staying at maintenance and just like hoping you gain is probably, not the best strategy if you're plateaued. You need more food in order to grow more. If you have plateaued to a point where you're not making any additional strength gains in the gym, you're not seeing any progress in the mirror, you know, maybe you got to look at adding food. It's really just logical conclusion. You know what I mean? Like, as far as how to successfully do it, in general, it's about not giving in and overeating at the end of the day. Because at that point, when you start to overeat, and you're like, fuck it, I'm bulking anyways, you know, I'm coming off a cut, I'm just gonna, you know, reward myself a bit. You start to, you know, accrue fat unnecessarily above and beyond what you need to recover. And it just becomes this snowball where all of a sudden, within a few weeks, you're up like 20 pounds of shit weight, you know? Like, that's not uncommon at all for guys. Like, I'm pretty sure everybody here who's done like a very, very strict cut, who got to like single digit body fat percentage, has rebounded and done like a dirty rebound like an idiot, you know? Like, we've all done that shit. We've all, you know, binge ate and gained like 20 pounds in a few weeks. It happens to everyone at least once, I think. And that's kind of where you learn not to do that in the future. And then you don't do it again, or at least you are cognizant of it the next time around, so you don't do it again. So anyways, that's like, honestly, the reasonable strategy. You just eat a reasonable amount of a surplus. You don't go to 4,000 calories because you read in a magazine that fucking some men's physique guy does it. You don't jump to 6,000 calories because fucking, you know, Big Ramy eats that. You eat, you know, let's just say your maintenance 3,000, we go to 3,300, you know? We see what we can milk out of that. And once you've milked all of the progress you possibly can, boom, let's look at the next incremental increase, which could be like 100, 200 calories, you know? It's really just as simple as that, in my opinion, you know? Yeah, the thing though is most guys don't watch the mirror. They just watch the scale. And when they look at the scale, like, they don't even look at their strength in the gym. They just look at the scale and they see, oh, I've gained like 1.7 pounds this week, or I've gained, you know, 0.1 pound this week. And that's what they're dictating their strategy of dieting by, as well as what they're doing in the gym and whatnot, rather than looking at, have I beat any numbers this week? Have I, you know, changed in the mirror in a positive way? Even if I'm getting a little bit fluffier, am I at least gaining a proportional amount of lean mass simultaneously? That's what you should be looking at in conjunction with the scale. So don't just, you know, go by scale weight. That is a big mistake I see, and guys end up completely ruining their body composition within a matter of, you know, 6 to 8 weeks, and putting themselves in a shitty position, which then they have to, you know, work, kind of take 2 steps backward in order to make, or 1 step backward to make 2 steps forward at that point, rather than just off the bat from a lean body composition, making 2 steps forward and then not really having to, you know, go backpedal and like fix the shit that kind of fucked up. So anyways, that is kind of the reasonable approach, you know, as far as what calories you increase, like what macronutrients you allocate to your surplus. Like, in general, your protein is going to be pretty stationary in terms of during your bulks and your cuts. Your fats, honestly, especially if you're natural, I think they should be, you know, relatively stationary too. It's more carb manipulation that is going to dictate, you know, your surplus, your deficit, for most people at least. Obviously, this is going to be dependent on, you know, what kind of diet model you follow, especially if you have any certain health conditions, any kind of genetic polymorphisms that kind of dictate what you can and cannot do. There's a lot of different factors that, you know, are very, you know, niche scenarios. And so this is not, you know, a general overview that applies for everyone, but just in general, most people are going to be, you know, titrating up carbohydrate consumption, especially around their workout window or whenever, you know, they deem it necessary for that additional energy expenditure and or, you know, stimulus, recovery needs, etc. Or when it comes time to go into a deficit, you know, restricting accordingly in order to obviously pull down your calorie intake below what you are expending in order to actually burn fat, you know, or, you know, doing additional cardio, whatever it is that you deem appropriate. Obviously, a combination of the two would be ideal, but that is the general way, you know, to do it, in my opinion. It's mostly just carbohydrate manipulation and reasonable calorie adding and or subtracting. So anyways, hope that was informative. Kind of, you know, a basic video with some basic concepts, but, you know, there still are people who are, you know, jumping straight into the 1,000 calorie surplus and doing things that are gaining unnecessary amounts of fat, and it is leading to, you know, like subpar bulk phases essentially. So anyways, that is, the reasonable approach, in my opinion. So anyways, take from that what you will. Thank you guys for watching. Like, subscribe, check out my blog, moreplates.com. Follow me on Instagram at moreplates.dates, Facebook, Snapchat, YouTube, Twitter, TikTok, Apple Podcasts. If you want to support the channel, you can check out anything I'm associated with in the video description below. Thank you guys for watching. Talk to you soon.